surrounding you or framing you. So we are going to talk about livable cities related to Veszprém and the Balaton region. I'd like to take the floor first, and I'd like to explain what is life, human life. So a lifetime. What does it mean? It's about 25, 30 years. So this means that the children who are born now, they will be parents around that time, around 2065 or so. If you don't mind, I will use the informal address. And regarding the evaluation of applications, regarding the Cultural Capital of Budapest program, Cultural Capital of Hungary or Europe program, what could you actually add? If you could place something and put it in a time capsule for the generations to come, what would be the three things briefly? I'd like to ask everyone to grab a mic. So let's go in the order as you are sitting. It's very difficult. Everyone expects me to say that one of the developments was a great pleasure and great success. What I also mentioned in my introduction, when we were thinking about the application, the original title of our application was Beyond. We also voted on it. There was a serious debate about what the title should be. It doesn't have a classical Hungarian translation, but it means to overcome something, to go beyond something, whether we can step over our own shadows. And the tangible big result was, I think, among others, this, that we stepped over our own shadows.
We wanted, and finally we did believe that we could do differently. I do think that it was something big. And the second one is that we discovered our own city, and I've met lots of local people, and I saw them so happy to come to the city center with several goals. So what was great to see is that local people became local tourists, and they were so happy to discover that something has changed. I loved what Marianne told us, and the survey told us about trust. Yes, local people really fell in love with their own city. This is one of the biggest results that we got. Of course, we had several memorable moments, of course, but whenever it comes to long-term future, these are the pillars which can be the basics of our construction of the future. And whenever it comes to time capsules, we've just wanted to speak about. What do you say about that? Okay, thank you first of all for inviting me. I've been living in Austria for 16 years now, and it was such a great mission to represent this Veszprém Cultural Capital Program in South Austria. And very often what I do see between Hungarians is debate and quarrels. But now what we could see is that 116 communities, towns started to work together without serious disputes. It was good cooperation. I think it was something big. For me, beyond means also that we could go beyond our differences and we could work together. So perhaps we needed practically 1,000 years here in the Carpathian Basin to achieve that, to be able to cooperate and not compete. Everybody knows about the Balaton region. That is why I think it was a great choice, because Veszprém, which is something great and unique, not well known at the international level. So this little great place was linked to something very well known. So I do think it was a great choice. And what about sustainability? For example, just as an example, last week I was contacted by a travel agency in Austria to give some possibilities of programs because people want to come. And yes, Gábor Mihalko is a great researcher of happiness. And what happiness is a chain of good, happy moments. So I do think that we started to build this chain, and we are even now adding happy moments to that. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to thank you for the invitation too. Of course, it's very difficult to say something new. I think you've already told lots of things, and I think it's a difficult task. So even the first question is difficult to answer, but I've been thinking while you were talking, and I do think that when we just started some years ago to prepare a project, and we just started to plan this whole thing, we started to think about sustainability, for example. And I was asked what I was thinking about. And I answered that whenever it comes to this program of cultural capital, all the time we see that diversity is in the heart of the conception of the program. But I suggested that we should do it in a different way. Let's start with geography, environment, natural environment. Because lots of people came to live at Lake Balaton, and it's been all the time something that people were attracted by. So I suggested that we should use it as a basis, this heritage that we have with several layers. So I do think that we had a very interesting programming because the natural environment, people, creativity, and the networks linking all these things together, it was just a whole. It was something inclusive and global. Well, I have to be honest. Well, I was, let's say, superficial in my monitoring or following of the programs of these 2 years. But nevertheless, first of all, I would like just to react to something that you told, Balázs. You told that Balaton is very well known, everybody knows about. I do think that no, it's not that really true, because everybody has his or hers own Balaton and Balaton image. The very beach, the buffet where we go with the family. So I think that we had, all of us, some kind of a deficit of knowledge because we had our own Balaton image, but now we could just be connected to the image of the other people about exactly the same thing that we thought that it was ours. So it was great, for example, also to get together people from biologists to ethnographists, and we could think about it together, and we gave an artistic perspective to the whole. I think that is why it was so unique and creative. In the very city of Veszprém, for example, whenever we speak about values, community, or architecture in heritage, well, it raises consciousness and enforces positive thinking about what we've got. So it can be a good basics for the future. Thank you very much, but now we are just only constructing our time capsule. Let's not go to the future yet. Yes, the mayor just has started to speak about something interesting. He evoked 2016, I guess. It was for the first time that we met around this project, 2016. So it's been now 8 years. And I do think that, wow, we did lots of things. And the very moment in which we are now, so this very moment, I think it's the beginning of a historical change. Because beforehand, I just had the, let's say, the feeling that we had a very exclusive mentality, meaning that we excluded the whole world. We were just us and nobody else. And now we've opened up. We've opened up, and I think it's due to the possibility that our city just had this opportunity, and we profited of it, and we used tools. And let's say that the past was constipation, and now we are just freed of it. Now people are nice, they are smiling. It's the good feeling. Beforehand, it was not like that in the streets. No. So people were not at all that friendly, not at all before. So it's really, I have this positive feeling. People would like to talk, they are nicer, they inquire. And good place, that's what we've given as a name to those places. For me, it's more jazzy, which is something linked to beyond. Because I think we had in the beginning disputes between us. When we chose the title Beyond, beforehand we were, let's say, not very much agreed upon that, because several of us thought that, okay, if we put Balaton in the project, all the focus will be just oriented to Lake Balaton. And what is mostly important is to have it for Veszprém, but I think now it's better to have it for the both. Okay, my second question is about the level of life, quality of life. Researchers do know that there are several indicators that you can measure in order to establish the level of quality of life, healthcare, education, and so on. And also there are some subjective indicators at what measure people are happy with their life. You've got several kind of rankings about that. And Veszprém is normally at a very good place in these rankings. And when we've just discussed, and we are also discussing now about what are the possibilities to develop this creative place. So the big question is now and for the future, where to put the focus whenever it comes to developing. So yes, of course, we've got some things that we have to develop. We haven't succeeded in developing everything yet. But quality of life for you, what does it mean for you exactly in this region? And what are the things we should a little bit change for the future? Okay, Nora, first of all, you're a researcher, and Balaton, well, it's a region which is specific because very often we really see some kind of contradiction in between, let's say, autochthonous people, so people living there for a long time, and newcomers. Okay, so first of all, we never ever ask questions in this way because quality of life is not something that we can define specifically. So for the last 200 years, well, it was for the elite. Let's do not speak about the last years. So it was for the elite. It's been for the elite, and then we had some years that it was open for large parts of the population, and again it is for the elite. We can see decisions are really showing towards the direction. So real estate, for example, real estate development, we can see this direction. And whenever, for example, we locals, we would like to just leave, for example, Tihany and Szigliget became so expensive that local people could not survive them anymore. Okay, it's also true that parallel of that, these two places were really developed. But it's now not only Tihany and Szigliget, but lots of villages, even not on the coastline. We just can't live anymore because it's so expensive due to real estate development. And what have we learned is that we did not learn a thing. So my researches show that there is a colonization process which is ongoing with all the pluses and minuses. And really, I'm honest when I saying that. So when I published my book, well, it was a shock, and I am contacted by mayors and so on. And I am not proud, but I'm positively shocked. Why an ethnologist, I'm an ethnologist, is asked by mayors and so on. What to do, they asked me. I don't know. Okay, so we've got several perspectives from which we can see and analyze this question. Okay, you are a researcher. Some of us here are mayors or tourist experts, tourism experts. So, of course, we've got several perspectives from which we see this whole region. What is yours? But the first question was about quality of life. But let's go back to the very beginning. Vera just touched open that everybody has its own Balaton image. And yes, everybody has its own quality of life. In a well-working, well-functioning city, everybody can have the quality of life that he or she wants to have. And it is also very important to be able to accept the differences, because there are generational, cultural gaps in a city. It is just a normal way of things. And workplaces or leisure programs and so on, they should be able to satisfy the needs of several layers of the population. And we should not have conflicts in between them. Or if there are any conflicts, we should be able to manage them. And the mayor normally had to deal with these questions. So, of course, we've got several layers of population and we can have conflicts. We've got several programs in the summer garden. Of course, we're very happy to go there, but if somebody lives next door, well, this somebody was not that happy. But whenever we can well communicate, explain, and really be together, well, there is much more patience from the half of the people, the life of which changes in a negative way because there is a road which is reconstructed or there's a specific program and so on. So whenever it comes to quality of life, I do think it's about harmony, how to create harmony in between several needs. Yes, there are lots of researchers just wanting to understand these questions, but I am just a mayor. I do think there are three pillars defining quality of life. So first of all, infrastructure, basic infrastructure. So this is the hardware we've got. And we've got the second pillar, the services we can offer in a specific city. Public services, of course, but not only private services too. For example, malls, shopping. And we've got the third pillar, less known but very important. What are the relations in between the tissue of the city? For example, if I've got a problem, can I trust, for example, a local service? And if I've got a problem with my neighbor, can I talk with him? Or it will be a match of box. Well, so the third pillar, it's very often neglected, but today it's about the third pillar we are talking about. What are our relations linking us one to another?
Returning to the quality of life, I want to ask also Balázs directly from the tourism perspective. In the Dunakavics podcast, you speak a lot about this. Thank you very much. Vera mentioned that it's not all the same how you ask the question, because if the question is good, the answer can be good as well. But if you ask the wrong question, for sure the answer will be bad, wrong as well. And the question, of course, is whose quality of life? Kennedy said that do not look at what America can give you, but what you can give to America. And I think that's where this program was successful, that at the very beginning the program was already good, that they didn't look at what Veszprém can give to the program, but what the program can give to Veszprém and the region. And if we look at the free economy, they follow the same recipe, that tourism and free time and economy is not this. It's nothing else but the best use of free time. And they have three segments: the tourism, the sectorial workers and the visitors. And when the improvement of the quality of life goes well if everyone is enriched. The local people have a better quality life. The stakeholders who work in the sphere, they are economically enriched, and then the rest culturally as well. And then in Austria, they got to the point where Gábor Mihalkó got to 2005, where we wrote the first national tourism development strategy, where on the top of the pyramid was to improve the quality of life. And as a task, it appeared that the tourism-specific life quality index must be elaborated. Of course, the Austrians didn't read this in Hungarian, but somehow it got to them, because in Vienna they measure this. They don't care about how many guest nights and so on, but what the locals say. In their life, how is it influenced by the tourism turnover in the city? And currently, out of 10 Viennese, 9 say that it is good as it is. Tourism enriches their lives. Of course, it has a legislative background in Austria, and next time they will measure on the federal level. This will be a tourism acceptance index, and this will be the main indicator. And this is what I see as the other very successful approach. And in Austria, southern Germany, I was responsible for tourism contacts for B2B. And from Alice, I didn't get the question about how many guest nights I brought there with my activities. But the recipe worked. We could also see the figures, and we could see the interest remained. And now they come by themselves, that they want to come there. We should give them guides. So the mechanism was about asking the right question. Kerry, from the perspective of a small settlement, what does a good place or a quality of life mean as a destination, as a place of living? If I want to answer with one word, I would talk to Vera, and originally I'm also an ethnography researcher, and I don't have to answer this question. It's not us who have to answer this question, but I think that our ideas and concepts which provide one of the highest. So the area that provides the best quality of life in Hungary is the Balaton region. This is true from far away, but if we scratch the surface and look beneath, we see a more colorful and not such a uniform place. And I think this issue is specifically true in the Balaton region with the highlighted tourism areas, where I'm also a mayor. Obviously, in the Somogy County areas, we cannot compare the quality of life with the Veszprém agglomeration or an eastern Balaton developing, prospering settlement and their situation. Rather, these villages, the local society and community is rather similar to the South Transdanubian microregions regarding the unemployment and situation, which obviously is a key question in shaping the future. So the manageability of structural problems. But so what does this life quality look like on the local level? Obviously, we talked about infrastructure, which I think that here, these 180 settlements have very good settlement infrastructure. However, the public services, the internal diversification of internal economy, the non-existence of tourism economy, let's say 5 kilometers away from the shore, creates and requires a different types of thinking, a differentiated thinking, which only proves that we cannot speak about a uniform quality of life, Balaton type of quality of life. What do you think about it, Professor? We went into the complexity a lot now, so I would follow the mayor's thoughts, follow up on the mayor's thoughts. I think this beginning is very good, but we deeply have to think about what we were successful in and what not, and what is coming now. When we were talking about this jazzy city, and of course, it was my point that not only Veszprém should apply, and I don't know how these 100 and something settlements relate to each other. For sure, there's some kind of connection, but if we should find some sustainable dynamics and continuation, I'm sure about that. And this morning idea was a creative bureaucracy. I would give this up as homework. Of course, we won't resolve it today, but that would resolve a lot of things, and I think that we really need it. After the Second World War, it had all kinds of names, a similar subject. We have communism, clericalism, and so on, which can be a burden, and it cannot be resolved in a short time in cities with cultural heritage. So the city stood as one person behind the project. At the beginning, there were some skeptical people who became less skeptical in the end, and it created a very interesting, very positive mental status. And the question is, what can the bureaucracy give? How could we involve people more in decision making? And on the other side, there's the university, which is on the right track now. It has excellent leaders, managers, and they do understand that nowadays a university cannot alone resolve to meet the expectations. Although the calmness of a small city is very nice, but organizations and institutions must cooperate. There is also an association of Pannon cities, which we should also talk about. Universities are small, weak. They don't have deep roots, but huge potential. If the cities and universities could cooperate, this could be a fantastic dynamic region, but for that, we should ask for the opinion of the different stakeholders and players. We cannot do it in a top-down way. So this balance, the question is, how can a local patriot also wear a cosmopolitan hat? And instead of isolating themselves, how can they keep the local values but also let the outside world in? It's not a simple game, so I think Veszprém can continue on this path. The network opportunities are given, but this is an unknown road. This is a fight with the unknown. And of course, for researchers, it's easier to research the unknown. They can get some more data and so on. But for example, it's not enough to know how many guest nights are good, but how much more do we need? So I think in this joy that the city is in, it would be worth organizing forums. I'm looking at you because your university would be a great scene for that. And I would encourage everyone And I'm also a university professor there, so I will be happy to participate. I understand the message, but in the remaining time, let's talk about a question. But we also talked about in the introductory presentation. In the next 35 years, if we want to dream livable region, city for our children and grandchildren, what would you do differently in the light of these experiences? Just a few more things. Lots of people are worried about AI. Lots of people have climate anxiety. There is a lot of uncertainty in today's world when they say it's even difficult to create midterm plans. Or what about the many young people who say that I see that my life will be better in a big city? That's why a lot of people choose Budapest Beach or other Western European cities. If they come back, why should they come back? So the question is, what can we do for the next generation now, for the future generation now? Something that we would do differently in the light of experiences. So just 1.5 minutes from everyone, a few ideas. Maybe the mayor. Well, I would have passed if I had the opportunity. So this is really complex. I cannot respond to that in 1.5 minutes. So what I said was that in all areas we have tasks ahead of us infrastructurally, in terms of reinforcing services and further building communities. Just one more thing I want to say about big cities. An experience from the ECOC. I have mentioned this several times. Maybe some people even heard me saying this here in the room. I believe that the 20th century has been won by the megapolises, the big cities. Economic power, political power, cultural power is focused in these big cities. I'm convinced, and it's not only me, the Bourges mayor of Bourges we talked about the same thing, that the mid-cities must win the 21st century because there's a certain period in our lives when really we need the big, hustling, busy cities. But this is relatively a short period. Everything has changed around us, and now we don't have to live in New York, Vienna, or Budapest to be present in the culture, political, and economic life. COVID proved that as soon as lockdown started, half of Budapest came to this area and they were working from here. So what can a medium-sized city provide? Good environment, good quality of life, beautiful built environment, ideal place for raising children, security. So our mission is, and I'm trying to work towards this direction, to provide a quality of life, build a city, a community, so that we can be winners of the 21st century. This is my mission. And thank God I'm not alone with this. There are a lot of mayors with similar sized cities who think the same way. So we have to, of course, overcome a lot of obstacles to fight this battle. But the ECOC is a good reason to show what we are capable of. So this is not a dream that we cannot realize. Okay, a few more ideas. Yes, here's my occasion to say that when we started to think about this craft program around 2010, I was really upset about this approach, this conceitedness coming from politicians and big companies. That this little town, this village, it doesn't matter from the economy of scales point of view, is zero. So that's why. So I had the hypothesis that it's not a small city who is going to win the match, but from the big cities that are difficult to live in, there will be an outflux of people from those big cities, which has already started. And so what can we do? Medium and big-sized cities, what can we do when we cooperate? So they will keep the dialect and so on. But this way, a new type of city arrives, which means different. So it's not one city that is surrounded by wall, but a network of cities. And at the same time, however, it's so simple. There are 8 people now in the Panama, or the Pannon City Association. So if culture, art, knowledge creation, other infrastructure development is done together by all of them and they lobby for it, they have a much better opportunity than if they do it separately. And yes, human life is a very nice notion. It comes to me a two-line poem. It's interesting that a general, an army general, can live through several decades, but a poet's life is only a human life. So obviously, army talk about how many tanks, soldiers you have, and so on. But it, however, so we need an interrelational thinking, how the region, Veszprém, Keszthely, Kőszeg, Szombathely, Mosonmagyaróvár, how we can move together forward and not to lose our attractive force. Let's hear the others about lifetime. We are afraid of a lot of things. They say we are in the time of polycrisis now, and obviously the way out is to create a world order in which we feel good and which we can customize to ourselves. And where could we feel well other than the good places? So the recipe is there. I think everyone has something to do with this good place that is created here. So I think this new world that is looked through. So let's put happiness and quality of life in the center of our thinking. And if we look at it this way, then we have all the ingredients, people in the center, people and nature, the environment, and everything that is good for the quality of life is useful. Everything that makes things better is useful. Everything that takes away from it or deteriorates is useless. And to follow this direction, I'm optimistic because actually it has been tested here and it's visible that it works. And we understand, we know that there's a hidden network who understand it here, and everyone has something to do with it. So this is a huge treasure that we accumulated. Obviously, it's a prism. It depends on where the sun falls on it, but the prism itself is about the quality of life, about humans, and just continue this way, and then we can say later on that we finally found a recipe for success and happiness, which started from Veszprém and its environment. Gergely, thank you very much. I have 3 sayings, and I will try to be very, very brief, that in the coming lifetime, generation time, I think we have 3 problems to solve. For nearly 30 years, we have a development area. Balaton is a highlighted holiday area, and we need to tackle the problems efficiently with territorial policy instruments, and not because we have to think about abstract ideas such as balance, territorial harmony, and so on. But these internal socio-economic controversies are not not free of risks for the investment of capital and capital return. And based on our latest calculation, there is an 8,000-10,000 reserve in the employment, which we didn't even try to get to the labor market. So the other question is the demographic crisis, which is similarly to Western Europe, also appears in Hungary. However, one of the critical areas is the Balaton region. From a lot of aspects, you can compensate for that. You cannot stop it. But I think that in this program also, if you have the creative energy, this cooperation can show that from these social demographic changes, there will be challenges, and we should try to give 21st century answers to the... And the third topic, which came to my mind in these days, and if I have half a minute, okay, just 10 seconds. So from the cultural capital point of view, it's hardly visible because we have had a very successful year, a lot of cooperations, and I think that this will be the first step of a Balaton identity crisis, the new types of mobility phenomena, such as the new social layers with different values that are moving in, and then the globalist approach. This raised in me quite strong question marks how this territorial identity will develop in the coming decades. Thank you. Our time is up, but I don't want to take away the words from Vera.
Thank you very much. I would like to join Gergely right away. Yes, identity crisis and how to give meaning. These are really relevant questions. I do think that the roots are deep, and we've got some historical question marks, problems, issues around our Balaton Lake. The most important thing, first of all, is to understand what László Németh shared with us in 1963. He told us that it was just like a national hospital in order to cure our spirit. So I would like to have a common museum for our Balaton Lake, gathering together all these most beautiful stories in order to understand what newcomers feel whenever they move to the Balaton Lake, and what is the mentality and thinking of the people who've lived there for generations and generations. So I do think that we should put these things into, let's say, a shape, a museum. I think it should be a shape, because if not, that's civil war between villages just around the lake and towns around the lake. And there is a second thing that we should really establish. I do think I would call it Balaton encyclopedia, because all the time we should have this interdisciplinary approach in order to understand what are the roots of our conflicts. I think we should just develop some tools in order to understand each other. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.